Welcome at GLH. We are here in our testing center where we demonstrate and show all of our machines for our customers, and today we are going to zoom in a certain specific model. The next model we are going to explain to you is our S-6240DM. It is also a double miter sawing machine, semi-automatic. We also have it in an automatic version, but today we are going to zoom in a semi-automatic version. It's a saw where an application where a lot of customers are asking for, certainly in the fabrication work, construction work. It has a capacity of 440 millimeters round, so also 440 millimeters in the height and 610 millimeters in the width. I've measured myself the machine. I've seen that our engineering department is always keeping some extra millimeters in account. So when you have a customer that has a beam or an application that is a few millimeters bigger, just ask for GLH, EMEA, APAC or USA for some extra specifications. It could be that the application of the customer is this machine is the ideal machine for that application, because we can always spend a few millimeters more left or right in the width as well as in the height. When you look on the frame is a little bit bigger, of course, because of the size. Also the tube that we use for the construction of the frame is a little bit bigger. It's 160 millimeter by 90 millimeter, 5 millimeter thick. The frame is overall 10 millimeter in thickness, completely automated, a welded construction frame in our automated robot welding center. And when you look on the construction, it's a completely machined machine. There's not a lot of cast iron parts. Everything is fabricated here and welded. And when you have a general look on the machine, you see that the machine is completely in-house, completely machined. So there's not a lot of cast iron parts that are used in this machine. All our machines have mostly a direct drive inside, so all our gear reducer is also a direct drive, directly connected to the drive wheel. The motor that we use here is a 3 kilowatt motor. When you look on the lifting cylinder, there's one big lifting cylinder that makes sure that the saw goes up and down. And of course we also have a height limit switch, so the moment that you have repetitive work on a semi-automatic machine, you can use the height limit switch in order to make sure that the blade does not go up on the upper position all of the time. So there's 2 springs also for the counterweight. Basically it's to help. What is very remarkable on this saw, it's a huge capacity that you can cut in double miter, but it's very easy to move the saw in a certain angle. Basically with very slight force you can move the saw to a negative angle or positive angle, minimum or maximum 60 degrees. And it's basically simple because it's completely supported. The center is completely supported by a bearing, and that's the reason why it's so easy to move. You can read the angle in 2 ways. So in a manual way with an engraved scale on the back of the saw, with a pointer. Easy to replace, easy to maintain. Most likely because of roller tracks that are left or right, it's not easy to set the angle. The second way to set the angle is, and that's the most common way to use, there's an encoder inside the bed that also counts the scale. And with this display you can see on which angle you want to set the saw. So basically if you want to set the saw on 0 degrees, you read here 0 degrees, very accurately, very smoothly. You don't need a lot of force, and then basically you set the angle to 0 degrees and then it's fixed. Something that we added to our redesign as well is the reading of the tension. Different blades mean different tension sometimes, but we always want to make sure that there's enough tension and that people don't use too much tension, because that's what we see on these saws with a manual tension, that they over tension the blades. So with this gauge, or manometer, what we call in Europe, you can always read the right tension. So when it's in the green field, it's always well tensioned. Zooming in a little bit on the guide cubes, something we didn't mention yet, both guides as well on the inner side as on the outer side are settable. We always recommend to be as close as possible to the material, so this one is very easy to be set. So as close as possible to the material. And of course also these guide cubes are tungsten guide cubes who also have coolant through system and also settable on the front side. This saw also has a central coolant system, so when you basically remove the right side of the chip collection box, you see here the coolant pump. It's a little bit a heavier coolant pump because also the hose is a little bit thicker, the machine is a little bit bigger, so you can easily do the maintenance here. It's also foreseen with a filter inside and, like you see, easy to reach. Very important to mention with every miter cutting machine, when you decide or your customer decides to purchase a saw, it's very important to see if the bed of the machine is turning with the saw bow or not. So with our 200DM, the bed is turning with the machine, so you can see here that the bed is turning together with the machine. But when we walk over to our 440DM, then you will see that the bed is a fixed bed. You have manufacturers that use a fixed bed, and then it's very important to look at the bed plate, how you can exchange or if the bed plate is exchangeable. So you can see that this bed plate is exchangeable by unscrewing these bolts. That's not the biggest issue, but the biggest issue with most of the saws is that all of the bolts are basically on top of the bed, like this one. But this one, we have thought about it for service and maintenance to exchange it easier. It's a sunken screw. So when we zoom in a little bit closer, then it's a sunken screw that we used to easy exchange, because what happens a lot with bed plates is that this screw is going to be cut the moment that the saw is going to go in miter or in an angle. So very important to remember, make a good choice, look at the bed plate when you purchase a miter cutting saw. Very important again, every machine needs service and maintenance. When something is wrong, when something goes wrong, it's very important to have serviceability and make the life easier of the service technician. So also this unit, it's a closed system, and it's very easy to slide this system out. And it's also a little bit on the left side of the saw, because mostly customers are using roller tracks, and sometimes you really need to crawl underneath roller tracks or whatever to make sure that you can replace a valve or do some maintenance or do some readings. With this we thought of, we placed the hydraulic tank a little bit on the side with a sliding function, so you can easily slide it out and back slide it in. Very easy to maintain, very easy to reach basically. So yeah, that's a big advantage. A little bit more explanation about the control panel. Some operators like to work, because of the situation, from the left side of the saw. This control panel can be turned from left to right. So it's a little bit limited because we don't want the hoses to be crooked inside. But when you look at the control panel, it's easy to move to left and right side. That way the operator can choose the best position, what is suitable for his work. The electrical cabinets, again, can be opened and closed with a key. Give it to the owner, it will never open again after the installation. When you look into the cabinet, everything is nicely labeled, something that you can read back on every electrical drawing from us, but also see which component is connected where. And all the components are from German manufacturers, so when it breaks down, it's very easy to replace. And basically this is a very high finishing standard. When we zoom in on the control panel, you see on the left upper corner the degrees of the frame, what you can read and set. The left down corner you see the display of the saw blade speed setting. So you can, with a twist of a button, you can set the speed of the blade. The lifting of the saw bow, the down position of the saw bow, the hydraulic vise open, hydraulic vise closed. Of course, you see if there's power or no power. You see when the saw is cutting or not. This is the activation of the saw, so the cutting in fact. This is the stopping of the cutting. Obviously, like in every machine, the emergency button. And this function, standard, is to choose whether the saw bow stays down after the cut or it goes automatically up when you have repetitive cuts. Very recognizable is the feeding button. So the big button is for the down feed from 0 on a scale from 0 to 10.